What's going on, everybody? Welcome to our first attempt at a Spotify episode. Hopefully, this reaches out to everybody's ears. Janice is alongside of me, aka the New England Planter. What's going on in Maine? How are you? You are on
I'm
the telephone.
Yes, I am. I like you being the face.
You backed out of the intro, so just so everybody knows that's listening potentially in different areas.
Yeah. I'm doing great up here in Maine, and I'm sure you're doing great in Pennsylvania. Everybody in Southern California, not so great right now, huh?
Yeah, I want to send out our best, like hopeful love and wishes to that area and anybody that might be in our group or have family members or friends in that area. If there's any way we can help, please let us know. Um, I'm at like a loss for words, to be honest. I don't know how to react. And we were just talking about it for a brief second earlier before I hit record, and I'm still like learning about just watching different videos. So like, what have you been gathering? Like what?
Well, I think I've mentioned before, I used to live out there.
Yeah, that's what you
Um,
just said. No, yeah,
yeah, in the foothills of the San Gabriels in a city called Rancho Cucamonga, which is
yeah, I'm
just a little bit
familiar with
north of
that.
Ontario. Yeah. And in our backyard, it was the foothills of the San Gabriels. And every year when the Santa Ana winds blow, traditionally, okay, wildfires always break out because the way the wind goes up there, it's crazy. And with the water situation the way it is in California, makes it even more flammable right now because they're running out of water. They've had, unreasonably dry conditions. It's only rained once. I think the last time it rained there, I heard it on the news, was last spring.
Wow,
So
really? That
yeah,
much?
and a lot of parts of Southern California, especially Rancho Cucamonga,
Mm,
Ontario, all those areas, they're built on old vineyards. So you get a lot of old vineyard places like the Virginia Dare Winery that is pretty big out there in Ontario area. So you've got these old dead buried roots that are in like sandy soil in a lot of places. Now you get a dry season like it is this year,
yeah,
and that ground heats up. And I'm sure you've seen on the news where the ground literally is on fire.
yeah. The
That's
videos
because of
are wild.
because of the old buried roots that are underneath and stuff
Yeah,
like that. But you know, you it's a danger that is always present in Southern California and SoCal, in the Southland they call it. And you see it a lot in San Diego, and things like that. You'd see these actual lines, like squiggly lines of fire at night going across the mountains. Wild.
yeah.
But this year, it's kind of
I've
out of
never
control with the dry conditions.
like I always have heard about the wildfires in California. Was this the region you've always just that always kind of does this, or is this just like way farther south? Because I remember we were talking about a lot of wacky weather happening in our area. Is this happening in that area too?
Oh
Just
yeah, the winds, because the way that the Santa Anas are blowing right now, especially
yeah.
Pacific
Because I
Palisades and
heard
stuff
they
like
were
that,
like
it's
60
crazy.
miles an hour, like they could carry embers super far.
Oh
And there
yeah,
was videos of people maybe like 20 miles away and their palm trees are on fire and they're like, how the hell does this happen? But just
embers.
a small ember can stay lit while that fire's going and just
Yeah, because
land
the
on something
heat.
perfect in a
That's
nice
right.
dried out palm tree nearby your house. Man, it's like a matchstick, right? It's like a just giant matchstick. Cause
Convection oven. That's
yeah,
what it's like.
it's,
You got the
yeah,
wind
like
blowing, you get the dry conditions, the
there's just
extremely
no
dry
stopping it.
conditions.
And then
Yeah,
the firemen reported they're having issues with the fire hydrants not having water, and that is a whole different issue. But there's this thing's still unfolding. I feel like, but I'm still. I don't know. I find myself speechless about it still. I can't believe it's happening again. It feels like it
Yeah.
just happened in Hawaii and in the Carolinas, and now it's happening again in California. So
Unseasonably dry conditions, and it's like gas in a match.
how?
When I lived out there, people used to,
Did you
would
worry
always
about
talk.
that when you were in that area at the time, like potential?
No, only because California would get a little bit more rain than once a year. When I
Yeah,
was living out there. I lived out there in the late '90s, and the one thing that Californians used to always tell me about all the time was the Santa Anas. And when I lived out there, the first time I experienced the Santa Ana winds, for me as a New Englander, that was nothing. I kept saying to myself, it's just like a little windstorm. But out in California, where you don't normally get winds like that, to them, Santa Anas are a big thing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? To me, it was just a regular summer windstorm. But you couple that with a fire, you couple that with unseasonably dry conditions, and the Southland has turned into a convection oven, is the only thing I can say.
yeah. You're
You know,
right. When like the ground was on fire, like it just spread so quick,
Yeah, because the roots
and
that are
like,
buried in a lot of that sandy soil, they're
hmm,
catching fire because of the heat. And then you got sandy soil. What happens to sand when it comes to a high temperature?
just burns and gets harder too. It's just
Turns to glass.
yeah, it's like melts.
It does melt. But I just saw the list of the homes that were burnt down. And Mel Gibson is one of them. Now, he lived off of
Yeah,
PCH. Now, I remember this because I had some kids stay at my house one summer, and they got friendly with a couple of his boys, and they had been to the house. So I know whereabouts his house is, and I'm thinking to myself, going back to my memory, holy cow! All those $1 million homes gone.
yeah. James Woods had a great interview on the news. So if anybody wants to see someone react to it, James Woods, he poured his heart out too. It was sad. I think he did this interview yesterday morning. Did you see that one?
I didn't. And
So
what I do remember about James Woods is that he had a pretty nasty breakup with another actress, and he kind of went cuckoo and went under the radar afterwards.
yeah. So
So,
he's not trying to like make light of this, but like he was talking about it, and he said like at the moral of like what he was saying is if him and his neighbors weren't so close together and communicating and knew each other, then they all might have actually like died. Like they saved their 196-year-old neighbor, they saved each other. Like it's he said it got down to like the nitty gritty. It didn't matter how much money you have. He's like, I miss my house, but he goes, other people lost a lot more than that. But it
isn't
was,
that wonderful when communities get together like
yeah,
that?
that's
I
what
mean,
he said.
neighbors, it's such an American
That
thing.
was his
Neighbors
one
are
thing.
supposed to watch for each other.
And like he was almost tearing up, and I got the chills watching that interview. You should look him up. He also he was like actually really pissed off about the fire hydrants too, because there was one right on his neighborhood at the end of his street, and it wouldn't work, and there was nothing they can do,
No.
and he had to watch everything happen. Like they just had to watch it. Like isn't that crazy? Like how are you forced to watch? How is there nothing to do? That's what people are questioning. I understand the situation, but like it
Well,
was
I
pretty
will tell
tough.
you,
It's pretty tough.
don't forget about, I dated a guy that was a helicopter pilot who actually worked for the LA County Fire Department. And he would fly the helicopters every year over these fires and dump water.
Yeah,
They
it's
pick
too.
them up from swimming pools.
It was like windy
they
out
pick it
there,
up from
right?
the ocean. Yeah. And things like that. But when you get a fire ceiling that's as high and as raging as that is,
There's no. Yeah. and the
because it acts like a convection.
and it's
It
so windy that you can't.
it messes with the flight.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to wait until something's died out. But don't forget, there's all these ground crews on the ground, and they're fighting it. They're taking an inch at a time, an inch at a time, an inch at a time. I'd be interested into when all this blows over as to how it started, because I don't know if you remember there.
Nobody,
This is
there's nobody knows how it started yet, right? They haven't
well
announced.
repeatedly
They haven't
throughout the
announced
years.
it, right?
No, they haven't. They're going to have to wait until investigators get in
They're
there.
gonna have to know for
But
sure if there's.
yeah,
Yeah.
they have found before, in the past in SoCal's history where, there's been wildfires like this, it's always some guy lighting them or somebody throwing a cigarette out the
Yep.
window or, something
The
like
last
that.
big one was a gender reveal party. Remember that?
See? Yeah, it's always something. But,
That was a bad one
you know,
too. That was like oopsies.
yeah,
Like,
my prayers definitely go out to everyone affected. I personally have somebody I know whose kid right now is out in the Southland, who's hunkering down in Marina Del Rey because she was right next to where all this was going on. So call your loved ones, make sure they're okay. They got Red Cross out there on the ground, and all kinds of other charities that are out there. So prayers definitely and good vibes out to everybody affected by the wildfires out west.
absolutely. Um, it's just seems like a common occurrence. Do you remember last year how bad were you affected by the Canadian wildfires? It totally affected our area. It was bad in PA. The smoke.
I can honestly say I saw where there were videos and pictures of people taking, of the cloud cover, the fog layer from the smoke and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have
Here
a
in Maine, not so much.
I have a
Where I'm
video.
at.
I ought to send it to you. I have a video. I went hiking. I went on a walk during the smoke, and dude, it was like so smoky. It just smelled like a tire fire. Like the whole time, it just smelled and you could see it. And like as you're walking, like sometimes it would burn your nose. Like it would be like little wisp. Like it was just super bad to be like out there breathing it in. And like they were telling everybody not to go outside and not to exercise and not to go biking, or if you do, don't get your heart rate up because there's not a lot of oxygen in the air. So I went on a walk, obviously, like I normally do, and there's people hiking and biking, and they like bike a little bit and then they just go into the fog and like disappear. I was like, yeah, this is weird. Like
Yeah,
you should not be heavily exercising in all this fog.
Yeah, well, if you have a comorbidity like asthma, COPD, anything like that, anything pulmonary,
Well, you
those
shouldn't be
kind of
doing it
people
in
were
general.
inside.
You shouldn't be doing in general, like running around in smoke, but people still do. Um,
Gotta get their steps in.
yeah, I know.
Hi, Megan. Megan says hi.
Oh,
Sarah
hello.
says hi.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, Megan, we're gonna put this on Spotify, so get ready.
Yeah, hopefully. It seems
Yeah.
like the audio is recording nicely. Everything's going well, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I can see the screen right behind you. It looks pretty good. Look at that mic setup. Addie, you are quite the pro.
There it is. That's all it takes these days. If you have anybody in your family that like is learning guitar or a musical instrument or being a DJ, like they know how to record these days. So this is not too complicated, but this is like a big step for us because now I can have everything on audio and I can upload things to different stations, and we have a distribution company I bought a while ago that I paid, that I've been putting my own music on, so we can upload these podcasts to that station and just, I don't know, do whatever. You never know what happens, so it's fun to just put more feelers out. So far, I think Facebook has worked the best because I think it's just like person-to-person interaction, so that's what we like having.
Yeah.
So thanks to everybody for commenting.
I really do. I
Comments
like
help a
connecting.
big bunch.
Yeah, yeah, I like connecting with our followers and clients, and being able to help, and having everybody learn and having it be an open forum like that. I think it's really nice. Speaking of which, did you notice the post that was put on our practical forward on our tinctures
To
Facebook?
figure it out. Yeah, I saw it first thing in the
Yeah.
morning, and you know what I was gonna say?
What?
I was gonna say birch polypore, but I don't think it's that. But I thought it was. That was what I was leaning towards.
Did
And
you notice? Did you notice? Okay, because they were cut mushrooms, right?
yeah, this
Okay, so
I
did you notice that
go ahead.
stripe, that dark stripe that was on one side, which would
In the
which would have
middle,
been the
yeah, right
cap?
down the middle. Yep.
No, no, no,
Oh, okay.
not in the middle. It would have been the cap of the mushroom. So for me, definitely not birch polypore.
See, I've never harvested birch polypore. You just tell it could have been, and then I was thinking some kind of bracket as well. I think you said that.
Definitely a bracket.
So
Because you can
I
tell
thought
by
I thought two things at once, and so yeah, I did see that.
reishi. It was reishi.
Should have
It was
known.
varnish shelf reishi. And when she posted some better pictures of what that stripe was, I mean, you clearly see
know it right
the
away.
red varnish. Yeah, the typical telltale sign. But birch poly, that's why it's vital when you buy mushrooms from any vendor. Number one, ask the question: are they wild forage or cultivated? Where did they get it? Keep asking questions. Look at reviews, things like that, so that you don't get somebody who's purchasing something from somebody else and just reselling it and not knowing anything about the mushroom. You don't want that either. It's kind of like, when you're buying forage mushrooms, it's kind of like buying art. They have to have, what do they call that, Addison, when you legitimize a piece of artwork? Provenance. There you go. You got to know everything about that mushroom, okay, and how it was foraged and things like that. And if you get a vendor that doesn't have those answers for you, then that's not somebody that you should buy from, because maybe they didn't wild forage it. You know what I mean? But it's important to label them when you get them. We've all done it.
Oh yeah.
All of us has, me inclusive. And what makes it sad is that if you can't correctly ID something that you misplaced or that you didn't label, and you went through all that work of foraging, dried it, cleaned it, the whole 9 yards, and you didn't label that jar, it's heartbreaking when you got to toss it.
Yeah,
You should never consume or make anything out of something unless you have a 1,000% positive ID on it, right?
Yep.
But
And it's interesting,
was
like,
definitely hers.
yeah, that was an interesting post, because the first photo was like, man, that's tough. Like and then when I looked back like 4 or 5 hours later, I was like, ah, man, I should have had that one right out of the gate.
No, I like
I was
to
like,
ask
next-
a lot of leading questions.
I was like,
don't
next
I?
time I'll get it. So next time I'll get it. I'll beat you next time.
Well, listen, once you see, remember, there's that saying in mushrooms: once you see it,
Yeah.
you never unsee it.
Yep.
But so good pictures are vital. Labeling is vital. If you're gonna start, foraging mushrooms, getting pictures of them in situ is vital, so that you can go back later on and notice the medium that it was growing on. Was it growing on a tree? Was it growing on the ground? Was it, you can look back and you can try to ID the tree. It's all a process of learning when you're keeping your journals as well. Keep your journals, write stuff down so that you don't fall into that rabbit hole of, going into a forum to ask every single time.
Yeah, and like,
Because when you learn and you keep a journal and,
Yeah.
you're visual and you do that, that's the best way to learn is by repetition.
and let me tell
And
you,
it's empowering. It's empowering to learn to be able to do it on your own.
and like, your phone is not a journal. Like, don't write it in your phone. Take pictures with your phone and leave a little note, but like, what will help you so much, what helps me, is handwriting some notes. Like, when you're out there, like, it makes a big deal. It
Oh
makes a
yeah.
big deal. And then I actually print photos out from my phone. Like I order a bunch of like 4x6 photos, and that's what I use for my identification guide. So I haven't organized it yet, but I have a bunch of photos from this past year, and I have nothing written on them. So I got to go through and write my notes and take them from my red notebook and put them on the back of the pictures. There's a lot of work, but like, dude, if you take notes handwritten, it's so much better than just using your phone. And you don't always have to have your phone. You're not always staring at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and while we're
It's
talking about the phone, you
yeah.
can't always trust those picture ID programs that are out there
Not
because
all of them. No, I
those
mean
are user populated.
they're
So if somebody makes an incorrect ID and that's the popular answer, or more than two people make that ID, that's going to move up in the
yeah. There's
logarithm and it's going to incorrectly ID them. So you can't really trust those
yeah, and
because they're
like
user populated.
if it's a really tough like mushrooming out mushroom to ID like most of the time.
If it's what?
I said if it's like a tough mushroom to ID, like it's gonna be hard to identify with one of those apps. If it's like an obvious one, one that like already, and like there's gonna be plenty of information on it, but to try to figure things out with that app is tough. Like when you don't really know one.
Yeah, they really are. And most of my colleges and your hardcore foragers like me, there is no shortcut in mycology.
Mm-hmm.
Period. There isn't. And you sent me an article this week where some people did they end up passing away?
I don't know. I just know.
Okay.
I just know that
Yeah.
they can get some serious liver problems
Yeah,
from.
destroying angels. Yeah, amanitas.
Yeah.
Those white and we've talked about it before in previous podcasts, but a lot of times you see those mushrooming poisonings that will happen within Asian families because the destroying angel looks a lot like a parasol mushroom does in Asia. So they come here and they're very well versed in mushrooms, or they think they are. However, different country, different areas, different species.
So that's what
And
happened.
they mistake it and they collect it and they cook it for their families, and then
See,
the
they said
whole family ends up dying a couple days later from
that
liver
is
failure.
that is a shame because like they bought it from a vendor, from a street vendor, somebody. So
That's right. You said they bought it from like a
so
farmer's market or something.
yeah, from a street vendor, and there was no way to like trace it back to that person. So
Oh my goodness.
unfortunately, and like dude, that article was scary. Like, dude, it really scared me. It said that they needed like liver transplants like immediately to
Yeah,
survive,
that's what happens.
and like
It kills
that,
your liver, and,
like
and,
that
and
quick.
then it moves to your kidneys. So
So no
everything will
matter
start
what,
shutting down. Yeah, everything will start shutting down, and it doesn't happen right away.
so
So, it could happen 2-3 days later.
that's a lot worse than mistaking a jack-o'-lantern from.
Yeah, jack-o'-lantern, you're going to get GI distress, like, pretty much right off the bat.
Yeah, unless you eat like 5 pounds of it, like a ton of it, right?
Well, no, not really. You don't
I
have to
don't
eat a
know.
ton of it. You just have to be sensitive to it because don't forget, some of the skin on the caps of some mushrooms, too, that also could cause people GI upset.
Yeah.
And so peeling that skin off the cap is important in a couple of species. But, like the chicken fat mushroom, you should pull the skin off of that because, it doesn't cause GI distress in everyone. But hello, if you're going to be cooking a meal for a bunch of different people and you don't know what their allergies are or if they may be sensitive to it, just peel the skin off the top of the cap. If you're doing a fresh forage and you look it up, and some people may get ill from there, other people don't, that kind of thing. But the destroying angels, those are the typical culprits every year that end up them and the toxic jacks. But
So it would
definitely
be.
the destroying angels were taking lives.
That's. I hope they were all right. The article came out right away, right when it happened, and maybe I will get a follow up. Maybe I will look into that. That was just what, like 2 days ago, a day ago.
No, just a couple days ago.
But yeah, it didn't sound promising. It sounds scary. Not to
It does, but the thing is that
not
so
to
many
sound,
people aren't
doom and
versed
gloom
in,
again.
Yeah, so many people aren't versed in mushrooms because conservatively, we've lost 5 generations of foragers within a family. None of us are native here to the United States. We all come from immigrant families. And some of those immigrant families come from European countries where they regularly forage and it's no big deal and they just do it. Well, since since modern technology and grocery stores and the youngers not wanting to learn how to forage, not wanting to learn how to live off the land, they've gotten, they've lost generations within their family to help them properly ID these. So when you hear stories like this where whole families wiped out, as we do every year, annually it happens every year. It's funny because we were talking about that just before that story came out.
Yeah, that's why I sent it to you. That's why I sent it to you.
But it also causes what's known in the mycology community
fear,
as
right?
myco-fear.
Yeah.
That's right. So all these people that really want to learn to go out there and forage, want to do it right, something like this will stop them dead in their tracks because they don't know how to go out and ID and how to forage. So this is where Addison and I are going to give you a leg up. Facebook has wonderful mycology clubs in everyone's state, in everyone's particular area. You can find them. They're on Facebook. Get plugged in to your local mycology club. They will do foraging walks. You'll be able to learn a lot from their websites, and they're reputable mycologists that are on those all the time. And so I don't want you to be afraid because remember, fear is just the unknowing. Once you educate, it ain't so scary anymore.
No.
But it's simple things like people don't know that there's a difference between gills and polypores. Mm-hmm. So when you get the basics down, it's okay. But what I do notice in a lot of the forums is that people are always asking, what books can I get to help me easily do this? There isn't any shortcuts. You got to know chemistry. You got to know biochem. You really have to understand chemistry.
You almost need like somebody to kind of show you the ropes real quick. You know what I mean? Just a little bit.
Well, that's the thing. That
like
there is no shortcuts. I mean, it's easy. It's
like
easy to.
Yeah. Like I've been learning a lot on my own, but like I mean, even Janice, like dude's like talking with you weekly, like has boosted my knowledge. You know what I mean? Like so. It's just simple learning, but like going out into the forest and like just plant snapping, taking pictures, identifying things. It's fun.
Don't be afraid.
It's something to do.
Go on out there.
Like
go on out there and forage.
Well, like,
and if anybody's up in Maine,
like,
you can DM me and I'll be happy to take you out.
Like if you're looking for something to do while you're walking or hiking or exercising, walking your dog, like start identifying plants you walk by. Be like, what is that? What is it? What could that be used for? You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like identifying things. Like if you
identify.
And then
and when someone is a client of mine, I always tell them I'm available to them 24/7 with questions. Because I want them to go out and forage. I want them to.
Yeah.
I want them to light a fire underneath their bum and, to feel confident. And once you feel confident, it's great. So I get a lot of DMs where people will send me pictures. Janice, what's this? Janice, what's this? Janice, what's this? And I'm trying to tell people now to put those questions on the forum because I'm going to answer just as quickly because I want everybody to understand that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn from each other. We're all going to elevate each other here. And with the end goal being good health and self-empowerment, especially out there foraging, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the vital part. So don't get scared, anyone. Just get out there and do it. It's just like driving a car for the first time. You got to figure it out, and that's just how it is. If you want to have more natural meds that are more potent than what you'd get in Western pharma, because mind you, a lot of them are the basis for 99.9% of all medications that are out there, especially cancer meds. Okay, they'll only put like a 1% mycelial base in there. So can you imagine if you get 99 or 100%, how much better you're going to feel? Crazy. So, that's why I love it. I love people feeling empowered and going out, don't you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we preach is like trying to get people to go out there and to make themselves their own natural remedies. That's
right.
what I
Being
want someone to do.
self-sufficient.
That's what I want someone to do, is be self-sufficient, because it's something that I learned, so it's free to pass on to me. It's not, it doesn't cost money to me to tell you the difference between, a turkey tail and a false turkey tail, or something as simple as that. So like, if you could just use our platform for free answers that might be difficult to you, it might be easy to Janice.
Yeah,
it's
well,
it's a
don't
quick
forget,
answer.
I'm learning every day too. I mean, the
There it
second that
is.
you think that
I think you're good. I
know
think you're pretty
everything,
good. I don't think you know everything. I think you're pretty
no,
good.
don't. Yeah, don't. Because if you propose that you
We
know
learn a lot
everything,
together.
yeah, knowing everything is, and if you stay there, that's ignorance on a
Yeah.
scale, on a level that I can't even touch. But you're gonna make mistakes. That's okay. That is part of learning something new. And I have learned more from my mistakes 1,000% than I have ever learned when I absolutely nailed something. Because when you get overconfident is where the issue is. Okay? Let me give you, for example. You see a beautiful chicken on the wood. Latoporius sulphureus, the nice orange shelf mushroom with the bright yellow underneath. Chicken of the woods. Tastes like chicken. I'm going to go forage that. You already know what it is. You're going to grab it. But as you're picking it, you notice that there's a vine growing around the tree. That vine could be poison ivy. And you just stepped in a whole bed of it trying to get to that chicken of the wood. So it's not just about hyper focusing on the one thing when you're out in the woods. It's about a myriad of things. You have got to be present when you are out there.
Yeah.
There are snakes. There's all kinds of dangers that are out there. And it's funny because that's what brings me to this other segue. People will, I have seen people shame others for selling tinctures that they make. Yeah, I'm pulling the bullshit card on that one because, there's a lot of dangers out there. There's a lot involved in foraging when you go out there and you wild forage, and time, energy, material, constantly being aware of everything's around you and things like that. That's all compensable.
Yeah, I know. I like, sorry to cut you off, but like I've done the math before, like not too long ago, and like my time well spent on my remedies, it was basically like not as much as people would think. So
it's definitely not.
like,
nobody's getting rich off of this. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, like you're spending a lot of time on something that you love to do. So
yeah. Listen,
hopefully.
When you find your passion, you know it because you chase after it.
Yeah, hopefully.
For me,
right?
For me, it kind of runs in my blood, and my Uncle Henry said it best. My church is the forest. Being out in nature is my church. It's where I get centered because the way that my brain works, Miss ADHD and, anxiety and all sort of kind of stuff, I can take a walk out in the woods by myself on a hike and just decompress immediately. And because of the way that my brain works, I'm consistently triaging in my head and scanning all the time. So it's a good way for me to relax, believe it or not, out in the woods. But my mind is still going, 20 lanes, 90 miles an hour. I'm worried about the vines that are nearby. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about, okay, this tree, even though there's this great mushroom that I want on it, I don't know the history of this land, but I'm seeing lots of rooster comb deformations in some of the mushrooms that are there, which is an indicator of a petroleum, spill, whether it was gas or Caro. It could have been that land was a tannery, for all I know. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna look around, and I'm gonna notice a lot of other things that other people perhaps won't. The medium on which a mushroom grows on too, whether it's a deciduous tree or that matters. It affects taste, it affects edibility, things like that. So even mushrooms that you would normally eat, and you're just so used to eating it, you go to grab it off a tree and it just happens to be a pine tree or a spruce tree or whatever, you get it home and it tastes like crap. Well, that's why, because of the medium it was growing on. So, but the average person is not going to know this when they're out there foraging. That's why it's good to go out there with foraging groups, with mycology clubs in your local state, in your local area. Get plugged in, get to know who the wheelers and dealers are on those websites who really know their business. Go behind the links, find out who the moderators are, who the administrators are. Find out what other forums that they're in, because are they really legitimate or are they just gleaning off of other pages? You know what I mean? That's vital too. That's why, certified mycology clubs are the best and safest way to go. Get connected with them, go, and you'll get to learn other people, and you'll get buddies that you can go out there and forage with. And that's important, because this literally takes years and years and years to get down pat, and even then it's not down pat, because they're changing families, they're changing species, all the time, because of DNA sequencing. So keeping up on it really is a full-time job. For me it is. I've belonged to all these different pages and websites and things like that, and I'm constantly getting stuff all the time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Whew, man. Yeah. Can you not wait to get out there and forage?
Dude, I'm chomping at the bit!
You sound like it.
You have no idea. I can smell spring.
I had a dream about ghost pipe the other night.
You did not.
Yeah, it was real big too. It was huge. So...
Listen, I decanted.
I'm saying, candy canes, in your yard for,
oh, yeah.
They were, that big. So, I don't know what that means, but I'm hoping... I was like, wow, these are,
subconscious is working overtime.
I was like, wow, these are, candy cane ghost pipes. And I was like... And then I woke up, and I was like, dude, I'm thinking about this stuff too much.
No. You're not. It's just your passion.
That was my, people say you have spiritual dreams and stuff and that with ghost pipe, right? The mysticism.
I've never had any of those vivid dreams.
Really?
That some people do have.
I have them all the time, dude. About ghost pipe too. Once in a while,
on ghost pipe, you get those vivid dreams?
Not when I take it. I'm saying about them.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm talking about when.
But that's just because I'm thinking about it. It's when I used to watch, if you watch a zombie movie at the end of the night, and then you have a dream about zombies or something.
Megan chimed in. She said they've been on the hunt for chaga. Too much snow right now, but we hope to go back out again soon. Megan, we still.
I haven't found any yet successfully.
No accumulated snow here. I know Megan's on the other side of the mountain over there, and but she definitely has more snow than we have. We got some flurries day before yesterday. I think it was yesterday, and a light dusting stayed on the ground. But I could have went out there. I actually did go out there with a broom and swept off my steps. That's how little we had. So. But yeah, chaga is going to be pretty prominent up where Megan is right now. Head up towards Aquasic and up to Rangeley and go on one of their hikes. You will definitely find chaga up there because that's where I go a lot, is up in that area. Yeah, Megan said it's been snowing every day for over a week. Yeah, I'm a little bit jealous right now, Megan, because we ain't got nothing here. But, everybody right now, me as a gardener, okay, as a professional fine organic gardener, it used to be 10 years ago, I would have off from November till, probably halfway through February, I think. Now, because the zones change and our annual snowfall has changed, instead of me getting a full 2 months off from gardening, okay, I don't get that anymore because, we've got good temperatures going right up until December, it seems now. And I'm starting to plan in January, and I have been for the last couple of years, planning some of the designs and gardens that I do that year. But today I was out at the lake, and I got to tell you, I smelt spring, which is highly unusual for this nose in January. So that's a signifier for me, But then again, my sense of smell and the way that I, visualize my environment is way different than other people. So what I'm highly going to predict is what's going to happen is this, okay?
Is this an official prediction right now?
It is.
Is this like...
And you know what? There's always a one-off where I'll be wrong, but every year I'm not so wrong. So let's throw it out there to the universe and let's see what kind of shit I can step into this year, huh?
Bold prediction on January 10th here. 110.
January 10th for most of, at least where I live.
Is this like the groundhog? Like we have the groundhog in PA, so we go by him.
I don't go by that. That's a great thing to watch every year, but I don't go by that.
Yeah,
I go by my nose. So my prediction is this:
right.
We are going to have an early spring. Okay, I don't care what Punxsutawney Phil.
What's early, May?
I'm not leaving it up to a woodchuck. That's not happening. A groundhog. I'm not leaving.
What if the groundhog's late? What if?
No, I really believe here in Maine, okay, we are not going to have that much. I even said this last fall on our podcast that we're not going to have that much snow this year, remember? I was right about that.
Yeah, well, so far, our southern states have more snow than us. It's terrible.
We're not going to have that much, okay? The way the trade winds are flowing and stuff like that here in Maine, I was on record saying we're not going to have a lot of snow, and guess what? I was right. And I think that we may get a couple spring snowstorms, which is typical.
You can get snow in Easter.
Yeah, we'll have a couple of those. But we're also going to have many more days, like I said previously, that are going to be in the 50s, where it's going to melt off whatever snow we got, Yeah. This is going to be a pretty easy winter, because of El Nino and El Nina last year. This is what typically happens, at least going back in my log books, it does. So here's my prediction.
Okay.
We are going to have an early spring because Janice has already smelt the ground and crocuses. And, let's face it, my mimosa trees have pussy willows on them right now. They got buds.
All right.
They got buds on them because we had 2 55-degree days last week. That's all it takes. But also this year, a lot of your flowering trees and fruiting trees and shrubs. Remember last year, everybody's hydrangeas were going bonkers. Everybody's hydrangeas were just like popping everywhere, full full of blossoms. Did you have that down in Pennsylvania?
Honestly, yeah, we had everything was going nuts the whole time.
That's because of the El Nino and the El
It
Nino the
was
winter
cool.
before.
It was cool.
This year, because of the weather patterns in the winter, you may be in an area that will not get so many hydrangea flowers because of the warming and cooling tendencies that have been going on this winter. Because hydrangeas especially, they'll bud off old sticks, that type of hydrangea will. And you get a deep freeze in the middle of the bud, well, that's going to kill the bud. Okay, so, don't expect them, don't freak out if some of your stuff doesn't come in full this year.
Well,
next year's a whole nother year.
I had tulips that like came back out in like November or something. I was like,
weather patterns. Weather patterns have
sorry
changed.
Guys, you're.
You gotta go back to sleep.
It's not this. It's still 2024.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny.
Really is. It's
yeah, it was funny.
So there's my prediction. We'll check and see if that prediction stands, just like my previous one.
I think we're gonna have a mild winter. I think forever.
Yeah, very
I think
mild.
unless it really, really swings, but like it's still really cold, dude. It's like 20 degrees and windy. So I mean, don't get it twisted. I'm not at the beach in Pennsylvania, and it's freezing. It's just not that snowy.
Yeah, it is. But then you'll get a day where, one day it was in the teens or single digits.
Yeah.
And then literally 2 days later, it's 55 degrees.
I think last year or the year before, I have a picture. I went hiking on February 26th, and it was like 68 degrees just that day.
Crazy, isn't it?
So everything was like muddy and melted, and like it's just like nothing existed. It was just nothing green, but it was hot out.
My little sister is down in the Tampa St. Pete area, okay? And, we talk quite a lot. I love my little sister, and I miss her dearly. But I'm so glad to have a little sister. I really am. But she called me up. She was texting me, and she was like, you know what these crazy Floridians are doing down here? Now, mind you, she herself is now a Floridian. She's been down there since she was a teenager.
Yeah.
And and I know my little sister.
She remembers how it is to be cold.
Yeah, she's very self-sufficient, typical New Englander, right? She's like, everybody's running around with hats on, and here I am running around in my truck with my windows down, enjoying it. And I go, yeah, because
that's
a New
what
Englander.
It is.
Yes, a New Englander is going to look at that like, oh my God, this is free AC. I know there's going to be a time in August or July I'm going to wish I had this free AC. So, even when I lived down to South Florida, and we all know I've lived everywhere, even Dubai, for crying out loud, but living down in South Florida, I lived in Palm Beach County. Okay, I lived in a village called Wellington, which is right next door to West Palm Beach, is where all the polo clubs are. And even there in the wintertime, you would get dips to freezing, and people would go out there and, or at least I did, and I got everybody in my neighborhood to do it because I didn't know that you could do this. Cover my fruiting trees and shrubs with a mist of water and sheets. That prevented it from freezing. So any citrus I had on and stuff like that, it would save the citrus. It would save my sago palms and things like that, And of course, we're talking about smaller ones. We're not talking about going to get a ladder like I did to cover up your orange tree, because I'm a gardener. I take things to extreme, right? But I remember my neighbors coming out going, Janice, what are you doing? It's not Halloween. I'm like, yeah, but we're having a freeze tonight. And they're like, oh, it happens all the time. You just pick up the fruits afterwards. And I go, no, that's where Norway rats come in. I don't want rats on my property. I want to save my trees. And if I'm giving it all this loving and fertilizing and everything else, I want to save
them cover them up.
Too. Yeah, I'm covering them up. So, but not everybody can do that. Not everybody can.
But you fight for what you work hard on, so good for you.
Well, it's what you have to do. But we're not going to do that in New England, are we?
Well, how'd they taste? Did you get yours compared to your neighbors?
Nice and sweet. Perfect.
It worked. So for the rest of the year, you could say, "Hey, next year,
Yeah.
before the
Oh yeah.
freeze, cover him
Oh
up."
yeah. Oh yeah. Like that time I swore I swore at my cherry tree out in my yard here in Maine. And I said if it wasn't going to be producing, I was going to cut it down the next year, and it didn't produce, so I cut it down.
Wow.
And my neighbor had come out in the middle of me chastising and pointing my finger at my cherry tree. And he said, Janice, are you talking to that tree? And I said, you're damn right I'm talking to the tree. I told him, better smarten up, and I better start getting Bing cherries out of this thing, or else I'm cutting it down next year. And he started laughing. When I went out and I cut it, okay, and I did, I cut it. The
Poor
next
tree.
spring, okay, I went out there, and there was already cherry tree shoots coming up out of the ground from the stump that I had cut. Halfway into the spring, before summer, before the official start of summer, I had another full-blown cherry tree right in the same spot. And I was standing out there in my front yard.
Does this one have
my hands on my hips.
better attention?
That's right. Looking at it, and I'm talking to it again. My neighbor came out, and he walked over to me, and he just started shaking his head.
What'd you say to it? Listen here, you son of a bitch.
He said, all the crazy things that I have heard and I have seen in my lifetime, especially people talking to plants, he goes, I never believed it. He says, but I remember you chastising this thing and then cutting it down because I was making fun of you. He goes, and look at what happened. And I said, yep. Still think talking to plants is a bad idea? But now I have this unbelievable bounty of Bing cherries every year that comes out of this thing. When you cut away, and a lot of the men in my family are arborists. When you cut away a diseased part of anything, you're apt to, have that tree be a lot healthier.
Yeah.
And come back with even stronger shoots, especially if the root system is good, which this was. I just had to cut away the disease part, that's all. And, nature did its thing. But isn't nature great like that?
Yeah, it will always thrive. If
nature
you,
always finds a way, Addie.
Yeah, like
it always does.
It's amazing. It's fun. Like,
so,
go ahead.
Have you gone out since last week's podcast? Have you gone out and hiked and found any turkey tail or anything?
No. I'm indoor cat this week, man. Like, I'm not walking around outside. It was windy as hell, snowy, and I've been working on some music, so I'm not. That's where my mental time and exercise has been going, is playing guitar and working and recording.
I've been uncorking. I've been bottling, ghost pipe especially.
Good for you.
But I also had to do a couple more rounds of water decoction for turkey tail and resheath this week. So I've been busy at home at the lab, bottling and making labels and doing water decoctions. My house smells like it's a buffet bar someplace, I think. It really does. And I gotta tell you, the reishi that I just bottled, it smelled so good. It smelled almost like a vanilla-y aroma.
I feel like it has a vanilla.
It's weird how, and again, that has to do with the nutrients. It has to do where I forage that, and of course we always know it's going to be by a hemlock tree by a water source someplace.
Yep.
So if it's a good pure water source, if it's on public lands, always make sure you can forage it, number one. And the nutrients that it takes up in these big preserve areas are much better than in other areas. So it always amazes me how every tincture will smell. I'll get hues of something different sometimes, which is
Mm-hmm.
wild. But right now, what I notice is the vanilla aroma. But my sense of smell is on fleek. It's not normal. I'm a freak of nature. Not everybody's gonna
Yeah, you
pick
can
up those
smell whether
subtleties.
you can smell the whether winter is going to be bad or not.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far,
I don't
but
know.
you
You
can
said
you can certainly tell weather patterns by mushrooms without a doubt.
you can.
So yeah, you really can. That's why I always say for me as a forager, somebody that's been making tinctures for over 40 years in this generational business that goes back hundreds of years, you know, it's not just a mushroom. I am chasing altitudes. I am chasing weather patterns. I am chasing historical weather patterns, especially historical temperatures, when certain storms come in, things like that. There's a lot involved to this, which is why there is no shortcuts in this. So, the most important thing is getting with an experienced forager if you want to learn, if you want to go out there and walk, not somebody who just picked up a book that was AI generated, you know, and get to hear them when they're out there walking and ask the questions and let them share with you. It's
Yeah,
vital.
absolutely.
It's absolutely vital.
I don't. Yeah, I think in 2 months from now we're gonna be seeing what. What are we gonna be harvesting? Morels? Are we gonna be looking for morels first?
Yeah, morels are going to kick off in the spring, and morels, okay.
For
Listen,
me,
there's a lot
that's
of controversy where morels are concerned.
dude. That's gonna be the first thing we start talking about 2 months from now.
I
Calling it.
love harvested morels.
I
Okay,
can only find them in
I
one
do.
area, and I have never been specifically trying to hunt for them a bunch. But this year, I'm gonna attempt.
Okay, so here is a tip.
This is gonna be a
Okay,
late video tip.
here's a tip in finding morels. Burned out areas of forest. Morel is going to be one of the mushrooms that come in to help do a soil cleanse. Okay. The other great place to find them is old apple orchards. And a lot of people, in a lot of the forums, they'll balk. They used arsenic back in the day. You can't do that. Yes, I can. And they weren't spraying trees with arsenic in Victorian times.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you find, and there are a lot of natural wild apple, orchards that I
Dude,
have
I
come
know where a
across.
shitload of apple orchards are.
Yes, you come across apple trees out in the woods, and it's never just one. It'll be a few of them. That is a telltale
Even
sign.
crab apples.
Yeah, crab apples, anything.
All right.
But it's usually a telltale sign.
I'm not trying to give away
when you
my
see-
spot, but crab apples.
Yes.
I
When
know.
you find
I'll be there.
That's the other thing. Never tell anybody about your spots. Never give your spots away. Don't make that mistake. It's like sea glass, and is for me. Like, people will always ask me, "Oh, where do you get your sea glass?" And I'm very specific. Specific to state alone. Maine coast. Because as soon as you tell somebody where your spot is, guess what? It's gone. You go back there, and all those other mushrooms that you normally used to get, they're gone. So trust no one. Unless they're family members or somebody that you really love.
I got you.
You don't want to tell anybody about your foraging spots. I know it sounds like a nice neighborly thing to do.
No, I wasn't going there. Trust me, I know. I'm not. I'm just letting you know.
That's another hard lesson everybody has to figure out, right? Is that.
Well, you start second guessing things. You'd be like, "Didn't I show this person?" You're like, "Nah, they wouldn't have been out here." Then you're like,
I caught somebody.
maybe.
Listen, I had a friend. Okay, that for her birthday, she always
Oh
loves
man.
seeing all these pictures of where I foraged and where I got my sea glass and things like that. Because of course I combine it,
I
right?
gave away a big state park last season, but I film there every year, so I'm there
Listen,
all the
it's
time.
okay. State lands, it's fine.
Yeah, it's like kind of like I don't know, my little garden. I go there and film and talk about it, and I don't really harvest there, so they can just
Yeah.
whatever's growing just grows. It's pretty cool though. Uh, in Pennsylvania, you can harvest enough for your small family and friends. You can do that. So
Do different counties in Pennsylvania have different rules?
this is a state park, so it's across the board.
Okay, because I know some of the lands that are
Preserves are
in
different.
Detroit.
Preserves are
Yeah,
different. Now hunting lands are different too, like game lands. I don't know what the
yeah.
rules are there, but it's just I assume it's the same as state
Permission from the
rules.
landholder.
You can
You gotta get
harvest
permission.
you can harvest wildflowers and fungus enough for your personal and family needs.
That's great.
So for
Trailheads,
so for
trailheads.
if you're gonna harvest more than that, maybe go to private land. Wink, wink for everyone trying to find a lot.
Yeah.
Go to private
Listen,
land.
trailheads. The announcement at every trailhead will put out the main rules for you right there. Because
Yeah.
every state, every county could be different. At least that's what I observed throughout most of the state parks and throughout New England and other places. But don't forget, leave nothing behind. So to me, and that goes without saying. Whatever you take in, you carry out.
Oh hell
You gotta
yeah.
go potty. You gotta go potty out on the trail. Guess what? Don't leave your toilet paper there. That's disgusting. And if you think it's disgusting to pick it up, imagine the animals and other people that gotta walk by and end up seeing it. That's gross too. Bring wipes. Bring a Ziploc baggie with you if you have to. But that kind of covers. Like I've been to some public lands where they actually will have signs put out by conservation asking not to take any mushrooms because they want people to learn about the mushrooms.
I see signs too. So if you see signs, that's one thing.
Yeah, if you see a sign that tells you not to forage, guaranteed there's minimum of 20 trail camps, minimum, on that walk, because somebody in conservation or somebody somewhere who knows what their qualifications are to be watching these. We've talked about that before, but if they have a sign up no foraging, chances are there's webcams up in that. There's trail cams.
Yeah.
So just be respectful of wherever you're going. For me, if I had a nickel for every single time I have gone by on a road doing 50 miles an hour and spot something out of the corner of my eye and pull over and back up and realize that that's on somebody's front yard, that's somebody's private land, I go up to the door and I knock.
Wow, really?
Yes, you always ask permission, Addie. Always.
Well, no, I'm not saying like do it illegally. Like don't insinuate that.
I do. I literally will knock on the door.
I don't go on like private land like that. Like somebody I don't know, I won't drive by and be like, damn, look at all that, and then like go knock on their door. I would just drive past it. I won't consume. I would just disregard I even
right
saw
on the
it.
door because the
Unless it's
homeowner
something
is going to be
super great.
Well, the homeowner, the person who lives there is going to be your best resource for, what are they putting in their lawn? Are they putting fertilizer? What are they doing? But I will tell you, I've never had somebody tell me no. Never. Okay? And again, been doing it for 40 years. Mm-hmm. I've never had somebody say to me, no, you can't have that mushroom.
Yeah, they don't care, right? They're probably
they don't care.
They're probably like telling this story for the rest of their lives. Like this lady came up and she wanted this mushroom. She took it and told me all this random stuff.
Yes, that's the thing. It's a chance to educate the public for me because almost 100% of the time they will say to me, that mushroom comes back year after year, and I always wondered what that was. What do you do with that? It gives me a chance to educate them. And especially if it's hen of the woods, you get a good hen of the woods, and I'm not going to go by that. I don't care. I will knock on doors. I leave business cards. If nobody's home, I leave a business card, and inevitably, I've always gotten a call back. Hey, I got your business card, and you said that you wanted to have this mushroom. Come on back and get it. And oh, by the way, I've got about 50 of those out back. If you want to go out
yeah,
back
they're
with me, I'll
probably
take you out
like,
back.
I was weed whacking them last week. I wish I didn't do that. Like.
And it gives, and then I've got all private homeowners that the land has been in their family for generations.
Yeah, private land, dude. Private land.
Private land. Who I'm the only forager that's allowed on their property.
Good.
And I'm the only one that has that permission, and those people have game camps too. So it gives you a chance to connect with the community. As a fine gardener, that's what I like to do. I like to connect with the community, and I am not afraid of walking up to anybody, unless it looks like Charles Manson's house. I'm not going to shy away from it.
Yeah, like I unless it's Charles Manson's house. Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't go, hey, you got any mushrooms in there, bud?
I've even brought back, like I've told them, like specifically with hen of the woods, well, what do you do with that anyway? So I make a duck cell with it. I will bring containers of duck cell back and just give as a gift to the homeowner.
That's
and
cool.
They're happy with that every year, and I get permission to forage. They get free duck cell that they don't even have to worry about.
That's great.
And when I teach them, they're teaching their kids are teaching their kids. It's a great cycle. It's all about paying it forward and leaving good ripples.
Absolutely.
I like being part of people's stories. I really do. We
Yeah,
only have so long on
that's a
this
cool
earth,
story.
So, yeah.
Well,
That crazy lady, remember that time that crazy lady knocked on that door and that mushroom that we knocked down every year at the weed whacker? She ate it. She brought it back for us. My God, all those years I wasted.
50
You
years from
definitely
now.
hear those stories, yeah, without a doubt. But when I decanted a case of the ghost pipe that I did just this week. Okay, interesting story. I take out, as I'm draining out, the solvent, and I'm putting it in another container, and getting it ready to strain and things like that. I pulled out these massive Monotropa uniflora. These ghost pipe were their stems. There was a stem that was bigger than my index finger in girth.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
Huge.
I had one like that too. Just one.
And this is what surprised me. Okay, do you know how we've talked before about when people tincture ghost pipe and how you don't add water and
Yeah.
you don't dual tincture this and stuff like that? Hopefully we beat that with a dead stick, because I don't see that as much in the forums.
We'll be back on it in about 4 or 5 months. Don't worry.
Oh
Not
my
even.
God, I'm just
Nah, you're good. Go ahead.
I'm gonna get a button that says, "Oh
Well,
shit."
I have my ghost pipe group. Which I'm kind of sponsoring in this video, but like we have a ghost pipe group we're starting specifically on this plant, so we're not really I'm not really hammering it yet, but I will be repeating myself even more
Yeah,
in about 4 or 5 months.
We definitely will.
With or without you, I'm gonna be talking. I'm gonna be spreading the word.
Here's the funkiness about that. Okay.
Yeah.
The case that I decanted, okay, was 3 years and 4 months steeped in the flowers.
Choo.
Those suckers were still snapping.
Yeah, they stay like super good in alcohol. I bet you they'd last much longer than that time.
Oh, it's crazy. And so, but you would
You
think
think they're
that
still giving
something
some
sitting
nutrients
in
out?
190 is going to be desiccated.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's gonna be
because
like,
the solvent is
yeah,
going to just like all that water out. Okay, which, the tincture definitely has water in it, but it has water because it's naturally in this perennial plant. Okay, but people are still consistently saying that, oh, it's such a fragile plant, it's such a fragile. No, it's not.
dude, it's really hard. If you have ever eaten this flower like out of the ground, you will know it's tough,
It is tough as hell,
and
and you got to have scissors.
it has tensile
It,
strength.
it
You know
really
what I
does.
mean? Like you
Yeah,
can pull it this way and it's hard. You break it this way and it's nothing.
yeah. The
It's
stem of it is very sturdy.
yeah,
An animal or a person could walk on one, crush, topple it over. You go back the next day and it's standing upright again.
yep,
The only thing that's easily bruised on this plant is the petals, the ones that go up the stem, and the petals of the flower. Okay? That is what gets bruised. But
yeah,
those are also the signs that it's been touched, that it's been pollinated, especially if you get, the little outer edges along the flower. You can tell that it's been pollinated. There was this week. There was a woman from Maine who was saying, in Maine, our ghost pipe. What did she say? Our pine sap is white. The hypopitus. And I'm sorry, I had to call bullshit on that. I said, well, listen, I live in Maine. Hypopitus is a different plant, and no, it is not white. What
yeah,
you're seeing is ghost pipe that has a single flower. It's all white, no chlorophyll. Okay, hypopitus, same type of medicinal benefits as ghost pipe, by the way, but they're also called, pine sap for a reason because they start off as a golden color, and just like with monotropa, depending on the nutrients and where this is growing, is what color that's going to end up being. So
yeah.
the
And what time of year
hypopitus,
too, right?
yeah, and time of year too. It depends.
I feel like they
But more
darken
so the
a tiny. I
nutrients.
feel like they darken a tiny bit in the colder, September month.
I've seen them be a brilliant yellow hypopitus, the
Hmm.
ones with all the flowers on it, and I've seen them be a fuchsia that was like a red. It
Yeah,
was just an outstanding
I found a
fuchsia.
dark red one late September last year. Remember, I showed it was a picture not long ago. You've seen it a million times.
Yeah. Well, I collected a bunch of red hypopitus when I was on my fall foray down in southern Connecticut, right next to Old Lyme, actually,
Hmm.
and they were really short,
Yeah, these ones were
fully,
tiny. They were
yeah,
like
fully
midgets.
developed,
Yeah,
but
tiny though,
really short.
size of
Why?
your
Because
pinky.
yeah, I was there, and I was there in September. I was there towards the end of its growth spurt, and I was lucky I even spotted them. To be quite honest with you,
Yeah, my
but
fiance
and
spotted them. I didn't even see them. She was like, "Isn't
yeah,
it?" I was like, "No
I
way."
tinctured
I
them.
was like,
I tinctured
"No
them.
way."
Yeah, I tinctured them. Because it's the same benefit as monotropa. It's going. It has all the same
I
benefits.
still feel like there has to be a slight difference somehow. Maybe it's flavor or smell or color.
Mm, it kind
Cause
of
I'm gonna make one
there's.
this year. I'm after pine sap like hard, and
Listen, pine sap, in my experience now, okay, in my experience, pine sap will sprout before the ghost pipe does.
I feel like that too.
Yeah, and so you're going to see the yellows and the pinks and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But the ghost pipe will
Man, you
come
got me
right after
really.
that.
Dude, I'm gonna have pine sap fever and ghost pipe fever this year, like hardcore.
are. Pine sap.
Yeah, I'm looking for pine sap. I found
Listen,
it. I found
I'm
that
gonna.
I found that garden, so I'm gonna be looking there. Really
Yep.
banking on it. Really hoping.
Look there, and find those dried, dark, desiccated sticks of Hypopithecus monotropa that are all over the
Yeah,
place right now.
I
I mean,
know.
if you don't have that much snow, you'll be able to see them, and you'll be able to tell where they
Yeah,
are, and you can know that you can go there next season when they start. But here in Maine, they are going to start in, let me see, down in Lubec, they'll start in the latter part of June, the first part of July, and that's the most easterly point of the U.S., and that's right there on the ocean. And I see a lot of them down in Lubec. So anybody's up here in Maine, go to Lubec, walk it, do your hiking trails, your public lands and stuff like that, and you'll come across them, especially the boreal forest. And then, and then ghost pipe is right afterwards. But I'm gonna have to send you some of the Hypopithecus tincture.
I would.
You're my other test person, because I did the honey. I just sent you some honey with ghost pipe in it, and I know some of my
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And some of my repeat clients, that are regular clients of mine, I always try to include some goodies, at least
Yeah.
every other time or whatever.
You need some kickback. So I want to really try some honey. So I can't wait.
I want you. You're gonna. Listen. The honey that I sent you has been steeping since the beginning of October, and the honey that I sent you, I purposely I only got like 4-ounce jars.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I'm gonna make something that I'm going to use, and that's gonna be easy for me to use. Now, am I gonna use 2 tablespoons of that honey in my tea? No, I'm not. I'm going to stick a honey stick in there, get it all gooey, and then just stick it in my tea and just flavor it and see how that goes. But I just did a batch of honey yesterday that has way more ghost pipe in it than what I sent you. So, we're still at this whole production phase here where I'm trying to figure out, what's
I
what.
am too.
But the thing is, with the ghost pipe, this new batch that I made, those big ghost pipes that I was telling you about that are bigger than my finger, I put roots in there too, by the way, everybody. So, even ghost pipe that has been used for tincture, as long as I tincture and at the solvent that I use, it still retains some medicinal values. You can tell that because guess what? The plant isn't desiccated in the menstruum. It's not desiccated.
Mm-hmm.
The alcohol didn't suck it all out. So, and because I pack my jars and only solvent to cover plus an inch, with an inch just to give it room, to shake, that solvent took out a lot of medicinal, but the ratio between the ghost pipe and the solvent isn't equal, is it?
No.
So those ghost pipe that are expired, you can probably still use. It's just getting because every plant is different. It's a different size. You can weigh it and try to do your ratios that way. But you can't weigh the chemical constituents of each and every one of those ghost pipes.
No.
So I put a flower in all my ghost pipe tinctures with a root. So that way it's still steeping, even if it's in somebody's medicine cabinet or
yeah, and that keeps the flavor going too, for sure.
Yeah, it does. And then you can eat the ghost pipe after. You can fish it out, you can eat it, you can save it, you can let it air dry. Do not put it in a dehydrator. Don't put it in the oven. Heat's a catalyst. Denatures proteins. Just let it sit out. Nothing's going to happen to it. But my whole thinking is, with the honey, is it still retains some mild sedative, factors. It's still going to be medicinal. It's not going to be as medicinal as a tincture. But sometimes you just want something easy before you go to bed.
It's kind of like having tea.
Yeah, so just having some tea, green tea, by the way, and honey, put some cinnamon on it, a little squeeze of lemon. You have got a perfect antibiotic right there and a pain reliever.
There you
because
go.
cinnamon, honey, and lemon is Mother Nature's antibiotic. Okay, that's why so many people take it when they have a cold. Everybody's sucking down tea. But green tea being, the main one. Now, you throw ghost pipe in there, there's your analgesic. You got a fever, guess what? That fever's going to come down now.
Yeah.
You got your analgesic and a pain reliever. It is a antibiotic plus and then some. So, this honey ghost pipe and then the edibles that we're going to be working on.
Dude, I think honey ghost pipe is going to be a game changer because I feel like dried ghost pipe isn't very strong. And I feel like honey ghost pipe might add just a tiny bit more of a herbal kick than a dried pipe would do. So I'm super curious to try it.
It's going to be adding a kick. Plus, it still has some alcohol in it.
That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping for. So I'm gonna wrap this. I'm gonna wrap this up, Janice. Are you cool with that, or you still got?
No, I'm cool with it, but I just wanted to mention about the alcohol and the ghost pipe. Okay, when I'm decanting and all that leftover ghost pipe, I'm squeezing as much as I can out of it. Okay, but if I'm gonna put that honey in tea for people that don't like alcohol or don't want it, hot tea is gonna burn off some of that alcohol.
That's a great point.
So yeah. It is, isn't it? See?
That is a great point.
There it is. But everybody eat your mushrooms, take your vitamins, ask the questions, be good to yourself, be kind to others. It costs nada, it's free. Don't let the negative energy out there get to you. Always think positive. And as always, we really appreciate you for being part of the Practical Foragers. Practical Foragers, yay!
Yeah, thanks for everybody listening and thanks for everybody viewing. We will see you next Friday at 4 p.m. And thank you for everything, Janice. You provided me with a ton of new information, so I appreciate it.
Woohoo! Addie, I love our Fridays.
Yeah, right. Well,
I love Fridays. Listen,
right.
Sarah, thanks for tuning in. Sarah, I hope you're feeling a lot better than you did a couple weeks ago. Megan, thanks for tuning in. Anybody else listening, thanks again for coming and enjoying the fun show.
Yeah, see you guys. Hello? Hey, alright.